Hey, what's up, guys? Took a lot for me to get up this morning and get this running. Thankful to be able to do that. Anyway, today's day 4. Hope everybody's getting the videos all right, and you liking and subscribing. If you're just tuning in, this is a man's channel, most indefinitely. If you're a woman and you're interested in getting some martial arts, there's ways to contact me. You can do that. Other than that, this channel is dedicated to the legacy of the patriarchal man and basically how he's being destroyed at the moment in time. So this is day 4. We've had a few different videos. We had Mistakes of a Man, and then we had King or Outcast. Today I want to talk about courts, judges, and cops. Okay? And if you're in Florida and you're going through some stuff with, some people call it a ratchet baby mom, or just someone who's just being non-compliant with trying to work with you so you could have shared parenting time, you could go on Facebook and just type in dad's rights or father's rights, and there's a group that's trying to petition the state. I think it's called Florida Equal Shared Parenting Time, but if you type in dad's rights, you'll get that information come up, and you could comment on their Facebook on a number of different scenarios that's currently going on live with different dads. So being that I was able to find that a few days ago, I wanted to get into the topic of courts, judges, and cops. And the reason why is so important to find a woman who potentially comes from a decent home. It's going to be very difficult nowadays. We have a lot of dysfunctionality, which I came from a dysfunctional family where the parents decided to stay together. And I personally don't think that they have an interest in really hammering it out, other than to create success, which was in their eyes making sure that what was being viewed in indoctrinations with church was still being carried out from generation to generation. So there's a lot of different types of dysfunctionality, but the dysfunctionality comes from where one is just unable to have responsible relationships and be able to communicate thoroughly with different people, and able to take constructive criticism, and just able to have dialogue about not only positive but also negative. So why did I bring up the topic courts, cops, and judges? The reason why is because from state to state, and I was fortunate this year to be able to go to a few different states, and I'm typically getting information from men, because whatever we're going through, guys, you're gonna reflect that, okay? So don't be surprised if you run into other people going through the same challenges as you. What you may find is how people choose to deal with those challenges. Like I said, dealing with exes who don't want to share time with the children. But it's not a black and white thing. It's a state to state thing, and it's a legislative thing. How somehow the state has some sort of interest in non-custodial transactions. But that's going to be on another video. So why is it important to have someone who can have dialogue, be able to exchange about constructive criticism and different things of that sort? The reason why is because a lot of people, I won't just say women, because men are in this state also, where we kind of buy into this Snow White tale, okay? I bought into it when I was young. I'm going to find the perfect girl, and we're going to have a family and live happily ever after. So it's not too common to find both sides accepting that idea of a fantasy. Where the fantasy goes wrong is when people start to understand that, hey, this isn't a fantasy, this is reality. And there are real things that are happening, real exchanges, and you're gonna run into things where people are going through midlife crises early on, okay? Could be in their 20s, okay? It's not just later on in life. There's a lot of different stages that people decide to check their reality and see, am I real? Or am I doing something that's actually something that I really want to do? So this could happen in adolescence. It can happen in teen years. It could happen when one turns into adult, when they turn 21, and then just before they hit 30. And it just continues on. So there's always a place in life where we're checking ourselves and trying to adapt, as I would say, to different trends that's happening in our own biological sphere. So when we start to check ourselves, the fantasy is no longer a fantasy. And so if we can avoid this fantasy, sometimes it's real difficult if we meet somebody that's sort of mirroring some things that we're really interested in, and we think that we can go to the next level. It's difficult. So we want to try to come in with as much reality as possible. And if you haven't seen some of the other videos, I think some of that will be helpful. But moving on, when we get into this type of reality, there's going to be questions, there's going to be concerns, and there's going to be, the most important thing, both parties being able to adapt to those different trends that are happening in your biological sphere, okay, or your frame, okay? Frame is what you make up of what you decide to bring someone else into. It's either you're the director of the frame or she's the director of the frame, which is most of the time a disaster. You want to let a woman enter into your frame, and that'll be more convenient and less challenging on trying to move up. But back to the ability to adapt. If they don't have the ability to adapt, guess what? They panic, because we could call a demon, to me, is not something in a red outfit with a tail making someone do weird things. The demon is inside of us. Those are the things that make us do things that are contrary to our reality. So when we see the demon in us, this is when we either decide to make a change, and the people that are able to make these type of changes, they have enough self-esteem, they come from good backgrounds, they have certain practices, and they're creative enough to see a negative side of themselves or behavior of themselves, which they're just willing to change. If they don't have that, they're going to get the courts involved. They're going to get the cops involved. They're going to get judges involved. Okay, so most guys are dumb, and most of the time they're the ones that end up panicking when these biological things happen and trends start to happen in the home, where people start to realize that they need to adapt. Could be a number of things. Sometimes it's an indoctrination. Maybe you have two people who started off religious and now they decide they don't want to be religious. You have maybe people who were alcoholics. They wanted to drink a lot when they were young. They were involved in work that made it more accessible, and now they'd like to change. So those are basic examples, but there's a lot of different bigger trends that could be happening inside the home. But like I said, it's either an adapt or it's going to be a panic. So if they panic, like I said, they're going to want to get the courts involved. And like I was saying before, most men are stupid. They panic, and they end up making a lot of stupid mistakes. So the best thing to do is calm down and realize that, hey, there's trends that happen inside of relationships. Once you get past the honeymoon phase, as a lot of men like to call it, there's going to be challenges. So you, first of all, since it's a men's directed to the men, we want to make sure that we don't panic when these trends happen. Okay, we want to realize that we have these demons inside of ourselves as well. Okay, and these demons, they can destroy us. And remember, if you're the guide, if you're the patriarch, don't be surprised if the woman starts to mirror you. If you're projecting a demon, you're not able to carry out some of the things that a man needs to do when he faces these trends and challenges. You panic, she's gonna panic too. So you gotta maintain, you gotta be calm. That's number one, okay? Now, let's say she decides not to mirror you. She decides to panic. You need to calm down, okay? I had a woman that tried to attack me, and I was fortunate. I had a friend of mine who went through a similar situation, and he was caught in the wrong when the cops got there because he tried to restrain. So we need to run, okay? That's our best option right now until we get some better legislation to be able to protect ourselves. I think I'm going to suggest that all men run if we get a woman try to run and attack us. They're getting closer and closer in a verbal dispute. You know what's coming. She's going to hit you. She's trying to find the right opportunity. And, you know, it's not a joke, okay? Women have been known to be the best assassins when we look at different countries, even this country. Women are very peculiar, and we look at them as beautiful things, but they're sharp, beautiful things. They have sharp objects. They are just like sharp objects, and they can stick you if you get too close and you don't realize what you're dealing with, okay? So I'm going to suggest to everybody to run, okay? Because, like I said, we can't win in the court once some physicality happens, okay? We can't win when the cops come over because the legislation supports them and protecting something that is looked at as less poundage, okay, so to speak. So we want to be on that, and this might be a little boring today, but there's not much more to say about that type of transaction with the courts, cops, and judges. I suggest everybody look up fathers' rights, look up shared parenting time, look up different legislations, how different states work, and call up your local ballot office, call up your county commissioner, and ask them what they're doing to change legislation to be able to protect men's rights, because right now we don't have much, okay? If anybody has more information to help me out also in regards to this, I'm really interested in this topic because I want to big up Jesse Peterson. I'm not really a fan of religious dogma, but he has some very interesting information. He had an interview with somebody called Cassie J, which is doing a documentary called The Red Pill. And he kind of broke her down on feminist rights, and she had an equal exchange on some mistakes that she's made in the past. But during this interview, I was shocked to hear that 75% of suicides are committed by males worldwide. So this is a big topic, okay, guys? When I first started trying to think of different topics that I wanted to do, funny that I was thinking about suicide. So I didn't know how much this was going to be linked to that. It's just it wasn't a close friend, but just somebody who gave me a lot of information. Most local people know the store Richard's Whole Foods, and this person took his life probably about 3 years ago. And kind of a loner when you've seen him, and but he was very knowledgeable, and it's seldom that men get support when they're going through their challenges, because we're supposed to just suck it up, as we learn on TV. And if you had a dad that was like in the military, or if you had a dad that was like mine, like that was a pastor, the same deal. It's no different than being a child of somebody that's in the military. Just very strict guidelines. But the most thing that they want to teach is that kind of tough love. And we don't really learn how to expose our feelings unless we learn that on our own. And this is a big thing. And so I want to encourage everybody to get somebody, find somebody to talk to. This channel is not just for other people, it's also for myself, because when I get a chance to talk about all these topics, I'm really talking to myself also. And some of the brothers that are listening, they train with me, and we have these conversations on a day-to-day basis, because it's tough. It's not an easy thing, to hear 400 years ago how different, probably long ago now, how different cultures of slaves had their children taken away from them after a war. So now we're going through this kind of corporate war where children are being taken away because of a woman's emotions. And like I said before, I'm not talking about guys who beat up girls or people who are on extreme drugs, but just, real dads, real dads who have an interest in the development of their children, and they've taken an interest when they had access, and they just want to continue those same trends, okay? So I don't know what I'm really going to call this yet, because I thought I was going to go more into courts, cops, and judges, but I had a brief really on that. This was really more about biological trends that happen in the home, whether both parties are going to either panic or decide to make a change about these trends. And you want to be as honest as possible. Sometimes these trends require both parties to make a split, okay? I know a few people that decided to make a split, and they live apart from their mates. Of course, these people have a lot more money, so it's a little less challenging financially. But they decided to stay with these women, and they seem to be a lot more happier. So, I brought up before the competition anxiety. If you don't know about that, you can check out the other video. I will talk about that more in depth, but I think that has a lot to do with it. Okay, so don't panic when these trends start to happen. They're bound to happen, okay? Because being on this planet is being able to adapt, okay? Everything that's happening, the sun, moon, stars, is happening right here. Black, yellow, brown, peace.